Umami Friends.
This will be a competitive character tier list. So we'll just get right into it and let's start ranking our characters. So first up, I have Sasha here. So Sasha, I am going to place in S because she's based on my dog growing up. No, but for real, based on the character, I'd say she's close to S. I'm going to drop her down to A tier. Sasha's pretty much the gold standard for my character design right now. I'm using her as a reference to balance all the other characters. She's great for teaching action economy and tempo in Umami Friends, which is a really important concept in competitive play. And here's what makes Sasha stand out. If you manage to make 3 recipes in a single turn, Sasha will reward you with 2 extra ingredients. This means that if you're efficient with your resources, you can squeeze out a 4th recipe on a single turn, giving you a really solid edge. Now, Sasha's starting recipe, Healthy Snack, might seem like a weak start, as it's only worth 1 point, and it's also the easiest recipe to make in the game. But that's actually what makes Sasha really interesting. Sasha can basically reach Garden Salad faster than all the other players, and Garden Salad is generally a good pickup early game. The earlier you secure it, the earlier you get your max refresh, the earlier you get greater card draw, and the more it pays off over time. So being closer to it right off the beginning and not giving your opponent the extra card draw from the Healthy Snack, I think is a little bit more powerful than it might actually seem. Sasha also starts with 2 points, which puts her in a really solid position. She's tied with Franck for the second most starting points currently, which means that she's 1 basic recipe closer to the win condition than other characters starting at 0 points. Doesn't sound like much, but 1 recipe can mean 1 turn or 1 tempo, and that can make a really big difference. I'm putting her in A, which is going to be called Always Good here. All right, now let's get into Shinra, who I'm just going to place in C tier right away here, or what I like to think of as a counter pick tier. Shinra was one of the trickiest characters to balance. The challenge with Shinra and really just spicy stuff in general in Umami Friends is that if I make them a little too powerful, then they can slow down the game and shift the focus entirely to burning or stealing your opponent's recipes, which doesn't really give you incentive to go for some of the more powerful but vulnerable recipes on the board. And that kind of changes the meta, slows it down, and makes Umami Friends a lot less fun. So I always like to make the spicy stuff, and Shinra included, strong in specific situations rather than being just all-around powerhouses. So when I say C tier, I don't mean that they're worse. I just mean they're more of a reactive pick, like a character that you choose when you see the right opportunity. So Shinra's ability to shut down certain opponents by stealing their recipe is certainly significant. It's the most powerful 1-turn recipe in the game. With the 5 spicy, which isn't easy to come by here, you can just make it really uncomfortable for your opponent to go for anything strong. For example, Burger Brothers, Fruit Sando here. They won't even really want to reserve tofu because you might just take it from them. So just keeping a few spices on your board can really put a lot of pressure on your opponent. As for the starting recipe, spicy ramen, it's really not the greatest. I think the strength of spicy ramen typically comes from its ability. And since you won't be using that right off the bat, it's often better to convert it into something like tofu later on. But if you are going pure red, for example, if something like Volcano Pod is on the board, spicy ramen can be a good thing to have because it costs energy to build, so you're essentially up 1 turn, which is a big deal. And Shinra does have another big advantage on top of this. So I've given them 3 points at the start, which is the highest in the game right now. From what I've seen in playtests, that 3-point head start can actually make a really huge difference. So while they might not seem like the character that you would choose like every time, they're definitely worth considering when the board setup kind of favors their style of play, or you're just looking to counter your opponent's maybe burger strategy or something like that. So yeah, speaking of burgers, we're going to move on to Franck here. Everyone loves Franck. I love Franck. Franck is straightforward, and Franck's good. Franck picks up 2 fancy burgers on 1 singular action. This ability is really good. 2 fancy burgers is automatically worth 4 points, which is a good turn in general. And burger recipes typically only scale in points from there. So I think Franck is capable of some of the fastest wins in the game. Franck just feels super, super scary on some boards. Like, you'll know what his plan is, you stop him, but he'll just go for it anyways and win. Spicy ramen's really effective at ruining his plan by burning cards. You can target a burger or target a sauce, and that'll typically ruin his special ability. And if he does get to a Burger Brothers, they might just be burned or stolen by the opponent anyways if he is rushing for the win. So he's definitely susceptible to counterplay. He starts with the Fancy Burger to reinforce his burger plans. He can get Omega Burger incredibly fast. Omega Burger is a genuine threat from him. So yeah, watch out for Franck. I think I'm going to put Franck in B, which is going to be board pick. All right, next up we have Coco. So Coco has the most recent rework. The old ability was like, if you don't do anything else on your turn, you place down 2 ingredients instead of 1 ingredient. I really like this ability, but it just wasn't like that thematic with tacos, and also wanted to make the game a little more beginner friendly. New players didn't find it that fun, and I gave Coco this new ability that I think is really strong, especially with beginners, where taco recipes cost 1 less. Beginners love it because it just makes tacos just much more accessible recipe route that doesn't require as much card management in your hand. That's one thing that beginners struggle a lot with, is just sort of cycling over your hand in order to get sort of what you're going for. And I truly do think this ability is crazy strong. Other characters would just have to save tacos or skip it and make tofu instead. But Coco can just kind of accidentally fall into these taco parties via drawing. It gives you 2 points and steals a card on the board, which is super annoying for the opponent. It allows you to carry your forward momentum. It also gives you access to a ton of strong taco rares in the shop. You'll get a discount on Tamale Twins too, which is probably the most high value recipe in the game. There is a small con to this ability where you get to cycle 1 less card out of your hand when making a taco party, which means that you mill for sweets a little bit less, but that's sort of a minor point. In general, this isn't an issue. Coco starts with a taco party as well. It's a great recipe to start with, don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's as strong as picking it up later and getting to use its ultra strong ability off the board. It also kind of mitigates the pile of taco parties, so sometimes Coco can actually run out of tacos, which can be a pain for her. But yeah, starting out with a taco party is quite good. Coco's really strong, so I think that she needs 0 points in order to be balanced. She has really good control just throughout the game. Can kind of do what she wants, steals your ingredients, stuff like that. I think she needs to be a little bit further from the win condition than other characters. So is she better than Sasha at optimal play? I really honestly don't know. Maybe, but something tells me that having like the great action economy on Sasha is just something that really smart players are going to be able to utilize as the meta develops. So since Coco is more based on tacos, she might just be picked into rare boards and not always picked. So I think I'm gonna go with B for board pick for now. So next up we have the booster set of characters. These are in the booster set instead of the main set because they use slightly more complicated mechanics than the base set. So my plan with every booster pack is to add another layer of depth to Umami Friends. So the first booster set here adds more sweet interaction, but it also adds more interactions with the discard pile. So here we have Ramona the raccoon. She loves trash. She is a raccoon after all. Ramona's ability is to take a sweet to take one of the top 3 cards from the discard pile. In other words, you're essentially working with a max hand size of anywhere from 6 to 9, as long as you have the sweets and you're willing to cash them in. She has to make a choice, and that's give up her sweets to evolve the Nice Cream into a Twice Cream or a rare recipe, or she can spend her sweets in order to convert them into ingredients of other types. Ice Cream's an awesome starting recipe. I think Ramona has to be our first S tier character. If she's so good, why don't I nerf her? Well, I think she's only S tier with some like try-hard, true optimal play. Keyword here being optimal. It's hard to see all the potential options in Umami Friends. With Ramona, if you can predict what your opponent is likely to put in the discard pile, if you can figure out what the best recipe route is, have a good sense of when it's worth it to save sweets or spend them for a special ability, then you can truly get the most value out of her. I think literally all of these things are pretty advanced play, and thus being good with her is pretty earned. I could see her being a blind pick into pretty much any board. I'm putting her in S for now. I'm going to be really embarrassed if she's really bad, but anyways, let's just keep going. All right, next up we have Damien. So Damien's whole theme is eggs. I love him. He's got a cleaver, a headband, he's a chef, he loves eggs, he's awesome. Damien's gonna be probably the hardest one to place for me. Damien's really weird. Damien's like a weird Sasha. He's like Sasha, and his focus is on card economy. Sasha's better at chaining actions together, like being able to make 4 recipes on like turn 1 is really broken for Sasha, but that happens almost never. While Damien just gets a little bit more value on every turn that he spends eggs, and Damien's probably going to be making a lot of eggs. So eggs are typically something that you pick up on turns where you wouldn't be able to do anything else. So basically Sasha gets ahead when she has a really good turn, whereas Damien kind of mitigates bad luck and saves himself on bad turns. Damien also starts with an egg. Eggs aren't worth any points in Umami Friends, so that might feel bad. All the other characters have a recipe that starts with points. However, starting with an egg I don't think is that bad. It gets him pretty close to being able to buy pretty much whatever he wants on a turn, where the other chef characters might have to just place a card or draw 3. So basically he will eventually sort of just save a dead turn, so he catches up pretty quick. Honestly, I have no idea where to place Damien. I think he might be bad, but also one of the best Umami Friends players actually thinks he's really good right now, and maybe even S tier. So characters that are flexible I think are pretty good. So I think it would make sense to put him next to Sasha in A here, always good. Eggs are flexible, Damien does what he wants. Again, he never really gets a bad RNG turn because he'll always make up for it later. Only more playtests and time will exactly tell where he gets placed. So that's my tier list for now. I can't wait to look really dumb when this tier list is completely off, but that's also what I'm so hyped for. As the meta develops and people push strategies, everything can change. So if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe, drop a comment with your thoughts, and check out the links below for more updates on Umami Friends. Thanks for watching.